Good morning to all participants. Good afternoon as well. Um, we would just like to inform you that we'll be starting the webinar around 5 minutes later. Thank you for your understanding. And in 5 minutes, we'll start the webinar. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dear participants, welcome to the Enrich in China webinar on the EU-China co-funding mechanism for research and innovation. My name is Dimitris Philippidis and I work for the Foundation for Research and Technology ELAS in Greece. We are partners in the Enrich in China initiative. And I have the pleasure of being the moderator of this webinar. This is the fifth in a series of webinars organized by Enrich in China. The previous four, some of you might have had the opportunity to attend these, were dealt with issues such as an introduction to the Chinese innovation landscape, intellectual property right issues and their management in China, as well as detailed information on EU-China R&D collaboration, both from the European and the Chinese perspective. This fifth webinar will provide, hopefully all of you, with practical information on how the Chinese co-funding mechanism for research and innovation works, who can participate in it, what it is, who can participate in it, and what are the priorities that are set in it. The structure of this webinar, as you can see from the program as well, is that we will start with a very short presentation on what Enrich in China is all about, and also about certain forthcoming activities that we have and that you might be interested in. Then we will continue with a detailed presentation of the co-funding mechanism and the new call for proposals. And this will be followed by some learnings from a real case example of an EU-China project proposal under Horizon 2020 and the co-funding mechanism. Some lessons learned from this experience. The webinar will end with a Q&A session. So please submit your questions in writing using the relevant menu on the screen at the right. Please mention when you write the question who you address it to, so that we can make our lives easier. I will not take any more of your time. I think that we can move to the first presentation of this session, and this will be done by Andre Barbosa, Senior Consultant at SPI and the Coordinator of the Enrich in China initiative. Andre will provide us with an overview of Enrich in China, as well as some very interesting forthcoming activities that the project has. So Andre, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dimitris. Good morning to all those who are in Europe. Good afternoon for those who are in China. I promise to be brief in presenting what is Enrich in China and some of our upcoming activities that may be of interest to you. So, Enrich in China starts as a project funded by Horizon 2020. A project that was presented in reply to a topic of Horizon 2020, the Globally 09 2016 topic, which intended to set up a network of centers of European research and innovation in targeted countries across the globe. These centers were intended to improve the framework conditions for international cooperation in research and innovation, foster cooperation between European actors from science, technology, and innovation fields with their counterparts in those countries, and to enhance the impact and results from research and innovation projects performed by Europeans in collaboration with organizations from these targeted countries. Currently, there are three centers that were set up as a result of three different Horizon 2020 projects in reply to this topic of Horizon 2020. These centers were set up in China, in Brazil, and in the USA. The center set up in China is coordinated by the company I work for, SPI. The center set up in Brazil is coordinated by the German Research Institute Fraunhofer, and the center in the USA is coordinated by a consultancy company called InnoTST. The three centers, they are a pilot initiative from the European Commission to foster internationalization of the European research and innovation, initially supported by a Horizon 2020 project, as I said, but ultimately the goal of these three centers is to become financially self-sustainable. So the idea is that they continue to operate after the grant of the Horizon 2020 projects ends. And also one of the underlying objectives of this network of centers is to promote internationally European science, technology and innovation, particularly the collaboration between European STI actors with their counterparts in the targeted countries. The center in China, ENRICH in China, is supported by a network of 13 partners, 8 from Europe and 5 from China. This partnership comprises different types of actors, private companies, research institutes, funding agencies, associations and networks from different countries and regions in Europe, as well as different countries, as well as different regions in China, enabling a broad geographic coverage in both Europe and in China, and also a broad coverage of different competences, expertises, and skills. ENRICH in China, and just a small side note, ENRICH means European Network of Research and Innovation Centers and Hubs. ENRICH is the brand, the umbrella brand of the three centers in China, USA, and Brazil. Specifically talking about ENRICH in China, it has three major aims. The first one is to connect and support European STI organizations in China by providing services. So ENRICH in China is a service, works on a service provision basis. It also intends to reinforce the leadership of European science, technology, and innovation in China. So to strengthen the leading position of research and innovation done in Europe, also within the Chinese market. And finally, to promote cooperation between research, development, and innovation actors of Europe and China. ENRICH in China is located primarily in the city of Beijing, where its headquarters are located, in the facilities of the USNE Center, with whom ENRICH in China has a strategic cooperation. ENRICH in China has also a regional office in the city of Chengdu, facilitated by one of the partners in China, which is UPIC, and this regional hub is located in the Innovation Center for China and Europe Cooperation. Finally, the ENRICH in China has a liaison office located in the city of Brussels in Europe to promote the or to facilitate the contact and the prospection of clients from the European side. ENRICH in China has as their major potential clients actors working in the different stages of the innovation value chain. So research actors, including universities, research centers, and research councils. Innovation actors, such as innovation agencies and funding agencies, and also from the business side, namely companies and particularly SMEs. As I said, ENRICH in China works on a service provision basis, and the services provided by the center are organized in seven different categories, which constitute Enriching China service portfolio. These categories are RDI consultancy and coaching, in which the center provides guidance, orientation, and counseling on specific needs and priorities of our clients with regards to science, technology, and innovation in China. RDI intelligence, in which the center provides information, reports, studies, and reliable data about the Chinese STI landscape. Soft planning and co-working, in which the center provides the support services needed for a smooth entrance of European organizations into the Chinese market. Training, so courses, workshops, and webinars. Events, such as matchmaking sessions, roadshows, business visits, and so forth, to gather European and Chinese STI actors to explore collaborative opportunities. RDI briefings, so news and informations about the Chinese STI system. And finally, innovation support certification, in which the center refers reliable and trustful partners in China to collaborate with European organizations. ENRICH in China was launched as a project office in October last year, in a series of activities which included also the launching of our headquarters in Beijing and of the regional hub in Chengdu. And since then, several activities and services have been implemented to different organizations, to different clients. I'd like to highlight just a few of the recent initiatives that were undertaken by ENRICH in China. Starting with the innovation tour to China that took place at the beginning of May to 3 cities in China, Shanghai, Wuxi, and Chengdu. This mission was focused on the sector of intelligent manufacturing. It gathered 25 participants from EU member states that had the chance to visit leading Chinese organizations working in that sector. In the context of this innovation tour, there were some parallel events and activities that were organized, such as the EU-China Intelligent Manufacturing Conference that took place in Shanghai on May the 7th, in which the European had the chance to meet experts from the Industry 4.0 and from the initiative Made in China 2025. Also, the Senior European Innovation Cooperation seminar that took place in the city of Wuxi, with more than 120 participants, and which resulted into the signature of 2 memoranda of understanding of Chinese companies with European participants in our innovation tour. Also, in the context of this tour, we had a chance to visit Wuxi Research Institute, to attend the EU-China STI Cooperation Seminar that took place in the city of Chengdu in celebration of the Europe Day on May the 10th. And also the possibility of presenting ENRICH in China at the International FCH Tech Workshop organized by ASEM and different other organizations, networks and associations from the private sector in Beijing. This workshop focused on energy-related issues, namely on hydrogen society and fuel cell solutions. To finalize, and already outside the scope of the innovation tour, ENRICH in China organized the first EU-China Cleantech Scale-Up delegation to the city of Wuhan, involving 9 European companies, investors, and universities that visited key facilities in China related to clean tech energy. To finalize, I'd like to highlight a few upcoming initiatives of the center, starting with the workshop on proposal preparation that will be taking place on June the 12th and 13th in the city of Stuttgart, Germany. to be facilitated by our partners of Steinweiss. Another initiative that is taking place on another workshop that is taking place on June the 12th in the city of Zurich in Switzerland, focused on the Chinese innovation landscape and funding opportunities. So some strategic guidance on how to approach the Chinese market and how to benefit of existing funding opportunities for innovation and for companies. And also another workshop that is taking place in the city of Porto in Portugal on June the 25th, entitled Enrich Your Innovation and Business Potential in China, in which information will be provided on research possibility of collaboration, on innovation-related funding opportunities, and also some strategic guidance for companies on how to approach and to internationalize to the Chinese market. Here you have our contacts in China as well as in Europe. Please visit our website, china.enrichcenters.eu. Contact us at china@enrichcenters.eu. And that's all for my side. Just as a very final note, we are available to reply any questions that you put in written in the webinar. And also the presentation is made available to you in the control panel of the webinar, in the control panel named handouts. You have the PDF file of this presentation as well as from the other presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andre, for this informative presentation of Enrich in China and of the forthcoming activities of our project and of the center. As you mentioned, the presentations are available in the handout section, so you can find them there and download them. And please, any questions, submit them in writing. We can move on now to the next presentation of the day, which is entitled New Calls for Proposal under the Co-Funding Mechanism. The presentation will be made by Professor Odette Paramor. Odette has been working in China since 2009. She's currently based at the University of Nottingham's campus in Ningbo in China, and she's the head of School of Geographical Sciences there. So she's very busy with different stuff. Before she moved to China, Odette coordinated a number of European research projects in the area of marine science, and has also been involved in the evaluation of project proposals under the EU framework programs since 2003. Odette has been involved in a number of projects, European projects that have to do with supporting the cooperation in research and innovation between EU and China, namely the Dragon Star series of projects, Urban EU China, as well as Enrich in China. And she's also involved in one MOST Horizon 2020 co-funding mechanism project related to urbanization. Odette, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me correctly. So I'm going to talk about the process of applying for the MOST co-funding call, but also just to give you a little bit of background to how it works with or how it matches with the Horizon 2020 framework as well. Right, now hopefully I can change slides, but it's not working at the moment. Okay, all right, so to begin with, I would just like to mention that Horizon 2020 is an open program and that Chinese partners are welcome to participate in all Horizon 2020 calls, not just those which mention China. However, the cooperation between Europe and China for research and innovation is based on the principle of equality and mutual benefit. And what this means is that Chinese partners are not automatically eligible for EU funding. In some cases, the European Commission will pay for partners, but these are very clearly signposted. In most cases, this is not the case. However, there are lots of opportunities available for Chinese funding there are lots of opportunities for of Chinese funding to support participation in Horizon 2020. So I'm going to outline the four main areas next, but today I'm going to focus primarily on the Ministry of Science and Technology co-funding mechanism. So this is the main one that covers the majority of the EU-China projects. There's also a co-funding mechanism specifically for one aviation call that will come out next year that will be co-funded by the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. There's also a series of co-funding coming from the National Natural Science Foundation of China, the NSFC, and this is in the area of biotechnology. And of course, Chinese partners can use any other form of funding to participate in Horizon 2020. That can include municipal or provincial level funding. It doesn't have to be from one of these specific calls. So today I'm going to focus primarily on most. So in terms of the amount of funding available, the European Commission has reserved a budget of up to 100 million euros for Horizon 2020 calls, which target cooperation with China for the next couple of years, between 2018 to 2020. The Ministry of Science and Technology has reserved an annual budget of up to 200 million RMB to support Chinese participation in these Horizon 2020 calls. And there are two types of Horizon 2020 call which are eligible for most Horizon 2020 funding. The first of these are the Horizon 2020 flagship initiatives and priority areas for EU-China science and technology cooperation. These specific calls have been developed by both the European Commission and the Chinese government. There are other types of Horizon 2020 calls, which most are calling other areas, and these are calls which align with most priority areas, and I'll show you those in a moment, but also where the Horizon 2020 call specifically mentions China, but these calls have not been developed in collaboration with the Chinese governments. These are calls which have been developed just by the European Commission. So starting off with the first type, so the flagship initiatives and priority areas, there are 5 flagship areas. The first 3 are co-funded by the Ministry of Science and Technology. So these are food, agriculture and biotechnologies, environment and sustainable urbanization and surface transport. And then there are 2 more flagship areas, the aviation and the biotechnology for environment and human health, which have different Chinese funders. So the calls for the 2018 round of Horizon 2020 funding have passed, and as has the application for the most co-funding mechanism. But just to give you an idea about the number of projects and the size of the projects which they're aiming to fund this year. So for 2018, most are intending to co-fund 4 to 5 projects from a total budget of around 60 million RMB. For the next couple of years, so in 2019 and 2020, there are a series of calls which have also been advertised already. So there are 2 associated with the food, agriculture and biotechnology one. So I'm looking at organic fertilizers, and another one looking at soils. And those calls will be released in 2019 and 2020. And then there's another call which is associated with the environment and sustainable urbanization flagship, which is looking at water quality in cities. And that will be released around 2020. If you want more information about all of these calls, then please go to the EU-China Horizon 2020 webpage. The second type of call is this other areas call. So again, the deadline for these have passed for this year, but for 2018, most were planning on funding around 15 projects from a total budget of around 50 million RMB, and each project would be funded up to a maximum of 3 million RMB. Now, these calls include those which where you need to look at the alignment with the most priority areas, but also those calls where the Horizon 2020 call specifically mentions China. So the Horizon 2020 calls which specifically mention China are again listed on this web page. They include things like low carbon, space weather, urbanization, transport, and logistics. But there's also if you look at the Horizon 2020 program, if you can find a match with one of the 9 most priority areas, which are coming up, which are these areas, then you can also apply for co-funding. So these are the 9 areas which are not linked to specific Horizon 2020 calls, but where most has an interest in working with Europe. So this includes things like the information networks such as 5G communication, virtual reality technology, quantum communication, quantum computing, big data technology, also things like intelligent and green manufacturing, so additive manufacturing, new energy equipment, also energy, so clean coal utilization technology, marine wind power technology, hydrogen fuel cell technology, themes related to health, so biopharmaceuticals, precision medicine, antibiotic resistance, medical robots, medical big data, traditional Chinese medicine, also marine equipment. So there was a lot of investment in China in this area. So looking at particularly marine engineering equipment, high technology ships, deep sea oil and gas exploration, and deep sea operations in general. Also space, so anything to do with satellite application technology, remote sensing, space equipment in general. New materials, graphene technology, nanomaterials, advanced functional intelligent materials, but also large science facilities, and also public security, so anything related to disaster warning and treatment, things like food and drug safety inspection. So it's quite a broad area. So moving on specifically now to most, and specifically onto the funding mechanism. So this is information for your Chinese partners when they do their application. So the most Horizon 2020 co-funding mechanism, it comes under the National Key Research and Development Programs and the Intergovernmental Science and Technology Cooperation Special Program. So they will need to look for the rules and the applications for this intergovernmental special program. So the management of this program, the high-level design is delivered by the Department of International Cooperation of MOST. They design and release the call, they negotiate with the EU and so on. They will also determine the final funding list. But the whole program itself, the whole co-funding mechanism, is administered by an agency of MOST called CAICT, so the China Science and Technology Exchange Center. And it's these people who can provide advice with the actual application. So the aim of the MOST co-funding mechanism is to facilitate Chinese partners' participation in Horizon 2020, but a successful Horizon 2020 application does not automatically result in a successful MOST application. The MOST application is completely independent of the Horizon 2020 application. And Chinese partners are very strongly advised to consult with MOST and CAICT for very detailed advice before they make the application. So the application process is that under Horizon 2020, you have one consortium with European and Chinese partners, and the Horizon 2020 coordinator submits the application on behalf of the entire consortium. But for the MOST co-funding mechanism, one of the Chinese partners will need to become the PI, and only the China-based participants will submit the application to MOST. In terms of the timing of this, for a Horizon 2020 two-stage call, then the application to the MOST co-funding comes after the second stage deadline, and if it's just a one-stage deadline, then it comes after that one deadline. Right, so Because it's most funding, it follows all of the most application guidelines. These are very different from European guidelines. Well, quite different anyway. So first off, you need to make sure that your Chinese partners are eligible for most funding and be registered with them. The partners which are eligible can include research institutes, universities, and even enterprises, but they need to be registered with most. They need to have a most ID code. It's just one Chinese partner that makes the application on behalf of all of the Chinese partners. And the application itself, it needs to be a separate project. It is not the same Horizon 2020 project. Plus, the application must be written in Chinese. English must be also must be included in the most application. In terms of the person or the organisation making the application, the lead applicant, normal rules around most applications. So they need to have the correct qualifications in terms of their I'm breaking up a little bit. I'll slow down. In terms of their qualifications, so they have to be at the right level. They have to have a certain number of years of experience. But also, most will also look at the number of proposals and projects which that principal investigators will deal with. Under this situation, though, if you have a foreign researcher based or employed by a Chinese research institute or university or enterprise, and they are eligible to become principal investigator. So the application process is a two-stage process. So there's the pre-application followed by full application. This is new for the fourth round of the coded method. So this application process has changed slightly. So the call was announced, the deadline for the first step was on the 15th of May. And they are currently going an eligibility check. And then there will be an evaluation. This evaluation is an online evaluation. Once the results come out, then it's 3 to 4 times the number of projects to be funded, be selected or invited to a full evaluation. And we don't know the deadline for this just yet. There will be an evaluation and then the progression towards grant agreement. So in terms of the pre-application, the word limit here is 3,000 Chinese characters. It needs to include a brief description of the how innovative project is, and also the foundation of the theoretical background to the project. It also needs to include an outline of the project's aim and objectives. The full application follows a normal most application form. So these need to be written in a very special Chinese style. So whoever is making the application on behalf of the Chinese project partners, rather, they will need to have experience of how to deal with this. The level of detail, particularly the financial detail, required is
we have a problem. Odette, can you please mute your mic so you can solve the issue?
Hello, everyone. everyone. Sorry for this. It seems that the connection with Odette has turned very bad. I think that if we cannot solve the situation, then I can just go through very briefly with what Odette has as a presentation, her presentation, and finish it off, and then move on to the next one.
Dimitris, if I may suggest, let's see once more if Odette can now resume the presentation. If not, we'll go for that way. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So Odette, are you connected again?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
A little. Yes, we can. Although a little bit cutting sometimes. So if you can speak a little bit slower, maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the most application form is a very standard application form for this type of Chinese call. So it will need to be written in Chinese, and it's well having a very experienced and very successful Chinese partner write the proposal and submit the proposal. The level of detail required is significantly more detailed for the European proposal, particularly the financial sector. So in terms of the evaluation, there are two evaluation stages I've mentioned. So the first stage is a remote online review by Paramor experts. No more than 4 times the number of projects to be funded will then be passed on, applicants will then be invited to make the full application. The second evaluation stage will involve 15 or more experts in a panel meeting in Beijing. Now, there is a high level of consultation between most and the European Commission, but the evaluation criteria are defined by most, and they're trying to, and there is quite a lot of exchange of information. Now, in terms of the timeline, because most have introduced this first stage pre-application, it means that we're not entirely sure about what the timeline looks like this year. So there are 50 days allowed for the pre-proposal preparation. The deadline for pre-application is the 15th of May. The eligibility check is ongoing at the moment, with a deadline of the 7th of June. Then there will be, then we'll shortly announce the invitation for the full application. Now, the distance last year between the eligibility check and the second evaluation, it was around 4 months, so it's kind of time frame. So for the 2019 application dates, these are yet to be released, but should happen at roughly the same time of year. And for this year, the full application deadline will be released after, or hopefully at some point in June. You're very strongly recommended to contact most or CAICT before evaluation. The full information about the most funding mechanism is available on the most website. It contains all of the very detailed information about the application process. Right, so thank you very much for listening. I hope it hasn't broken up too much, and I'll pass you back to Dimitris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Odette. It has been okay for most of the part, but unfortunately, the last few slides have been a bit difficult to hear you. If I may ask, if we go back a couple of slides, just to show again the contact details of the managing authority of the co-funding mechanism. So SPI colleagues, can we go back a couple of slides? Is that possible? The previous one? Yes, so we are here. So I think this is very important here. The pre-application, of course, deadline has been lost for this year. It was the 15th of May. So we're talking about Horizon on 2020 proposals that have been already submitted in 2018. The next phase will be in 2019, so we don't know yet the dates. These are to be confirmed. But it is very important to know that all information that you might need and issues for clarification, you can contact our colleagues at the Chinese Science and Technology Exchange Center. They will be able to provide you much more information on exactly application procedures, what is needed, what is the process to be followed, etc. So that's all for. I just wanted to highlight this as an important point to note. And I would like to thank Odette for her presentation, even we had a few problems. Just remind the participants that you can submit your questions in writing on the right side of the screen and the menu questions, and then we will either answer them at the end of the session, or we will get back to you if it's a very specific question. We will get back to you with a written reply later on. So without any other delay, we can move forward to the third presentation of the day, which is on learnings from an EU-China Horizon 2020 project proposal. It's a case study, and the presentation will be made by Dr. Ge Yuming. Yuming is currently a senior engineer at the China Academy of Information and Communications Technology in Beijing. He's based there. His research focuses on standardization, innovation research, and international cooperation in the area of connected and automated vehicles, especially V2X communications, cybersecurity, and data analysis. So, Ge Yuming, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks very much for your introduction. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Here is Yuming Ge from CAICT. It's my honor to be here to introduce something about the co-founding project from MOST and the project from the Horizon 2020. So we have one exciting project currently. So today I will introduce from three aspects. The first is just go over who is CAICT, and then the co-founding mechanism. But I think the other speakers has introduced a lot about the co-founding mechanism. So I will maybe introduce much more about the exciting what's the project from our institute and the cooperation partners. Here, let's go next page. Okay. Why I can't change it? Okay, what's the problem? Sorry, why I can't change the page from the test? Okay. Hello, sorry, can you hear me? I cannot change the slides by the
Yes,
test.
don't worry. We can change it. Don't worry. Just tell us. Okay.
Okay, maybe next page. Yeah.
Which page do you want? Yeah.
Page 4, I think. Yeah, next one.
4. Okay.
So I will see next.
So we will do it for you. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Just let
Okay.
us know next slide, and we can change it for you.
That's okay. Next to 4, please. Okay, so here is a brief introduction about CAICT. We are the think tank for the government and the innovation platform for the industry. So we will apply a lot of research project and the standardization project from China side, and we also have a lot of EU-China cooperation project during these years. So We will also, on the other hand, we will do a lot of standardized the national level and the international level. Okay, so based on this background, we will do the EU-China cooperation project with a lot of European partners. Next slide, please. Next one. Next one, please. Okay, here. Brief one. Yeah. Okay, here we have the. So we know that we have the other partners has introduced. Speakers has introduced more about the CF co-funding mechanism, but because we are doing the government support works, so we know that based on this, we have a lot of mechanism and the dialogue between these two. How to say, to government from the government level. So from the DigiConnect and the MIT, we have a dialogue called ICT dialogue, and to promote the research and the development and some demonstrations on 5G and IoT. On the other hand, we have the ICT dialogue with MOST. It's mainly about the research project. So we have under this dialogue, we have more corporations will be on each of these aspects, like the 5G and IoT and maybe related ICT topics, we have the smart city and the green city. So we have the MOU between the MT 2020 and the 5G PPP. It's two different associations. And we have the advisory group was established in the 2011, but currently it's not worked so well. Okay, so on the other hand, we have also the advisory group on smart city and the future internet. So next page. Here, so for the co-funding mechanism, it was the first call was published in the year, I think it's the year of 2015, and the partners can apply for the fundings and some other supporting. So totally, I think this project will together with the Horizon 2020, and we I heard that by the end of the 2020. The most from China side will support 200 million China yuan, about nearly 30 million Europe for the EU-China cooperation mechanism. Yeah, next one. So yeah, they have explained that for the EU-China co-funding mechanism, we have a lot of topics can cover. In China side, we have the like the food, the agriculture, and the ICT, energy, transportation, maybe even the advanced manufacturing and some related research topic. And so it's the same. I think it's the same. In particular, as all the topics is under the support of the Horizon 2020. From two sides, we have more cooperation mechanisms. Next page. Okay. Well, we are applying for this project. I think it's 2016. So we just go over all the procedures to apply for the EU-China cooperation co-funding mechanism project. So to our knowledge, the China side should be the China-based entities, and also on the other, they need to successfully evaluate it in the Horizon 2020 proposals and could receive the co-funding from most from China side. Next page, please. So here is the link to apply for the to the 2000 this year of the most CFM co-funding mechanism project. And as we know that for the budget, it's not over 5,000 RMB per project, and for each of these projects, it's no longer than 3 years. So we need to submit the application to the China Science and Technology Exchange Center. Okay, next page. Yeah, I have, as I have explained, we need to apply for the Horizon 2020 project first, then to apply for the MOST project. Here is all under the support by the MOST side. On the others, from between, I have explained that we have another dialogue between MIT and the DigiConnect. For that project, we also have some co-funding project. That is to say we need to support from different sides. And maybe as this year we have a project under the support of Omega-3 project, then the European partners can get the support from the Horizon 2020. Yeah, it's different situations. But for the MOST project, we need to get the support from or maybe get the guarantee agreement from the Horizon 2020 first. Next page. Oh, next one, please. Okay, so for the co-funding mechanism, I think the other speakers also explain more details. So I just a quick go over. For our project, I want to share some information to let you know what is going on for our exciting project and what's the difference between the exciting in European side and the different to our understanding of from the get funding from the China side. Sometimes it's for the self mechanism, it still needs meet some problems. For the year side, well, you want to get support from the Horizon 2020. First, you need to confirm and to have to be sure you have a short name and your name is very exciting and interesting. So you need to have the strong partners working before, and maybe you have a strong cooperation already. So for the exciting project, we have the 8 partners from the European side and 6 partners from the China side. And in the before of this project, we already have a lot of cooperations, and each of these partners are
Hello, Yuming.
Hello, sorry for this.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes,
Hello.
we can hear you. Yes, yes. So please, please
Sorry.
go ahead from slide 13 again, because you were cut there. So just start again from page 13. Yes, 1, 3.
Okay. From this one. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just explained that I think the other partners speakers has explained more about the co-funding mechanism. So I will introduce more about the exciting project, because we are working on this working on this, and we know still some maybe some difficult to the cooperation between 2 different sides. Yeah. First, we need to we have explained that we need to get the Horizon 2020 project first. Then, so here for the IoT and 5G project proposal, we have a strong cooperation between the European side and the China side. We have 8 partners from the European side and 6 partners from the China side. For each of us, we are exactly working on the point of IoT and 5G. And in the past, we also have have strong cooperation in the past, like the Probe IT project twice, eChow, and so on. So next page. Okay, for applying, we need to prepare for the basic information. Just maybe a form is okay. It's quite easier, but then it's quite a long time, and we need to prepare a lot of information and the proposals and the materials. Like we need to finish the proposal, and the difficult one is the budget from China side. So it's for the CF for this proposal from the European side, it's a policy level project. So we just get some requirement, get some information from two different sides, and to hold some workshops and publish some documents like that, and the white papers also. But from the China side, all the not to say all, but most of the projects are supported by the research and R&D. So we need to do a new budget and to write a new proposal. So it's different sometimes. We cannot using the exactly what we have done in European side to apply for the new project from the most. Yeah. For the next page. Next slide. Okay, here. So you can see from the China side, here is the exactly what we do in the European side. We need to the project support the cooperation between EU and China in the 5G and IoT, and focus on the technology research, standardization, test demonstration, and the industrial cooperation. And first, we need to strong the cooperation between two different sides, and to organize the several 5G and IoT workshops and the cooperation between EU and China with government level, industrial level, and the research organization level who need to be in. Yeah. For the next slide. But in China, we have to do the research and development and standardization, and we need to set up some testbed. You can see we need to do the research work of the SDN technology and the IoT testbed, 5G testbed, SDN architecture, and even the very difficult some of the modeling part. And finally, we need to do the standard and publish. I remember it's the more than 30 standards should be done. Yeah, that's the page. So you can see this is the mapping between two different sides. The China project, research and development, but here is the detail of the European side. Even we can mapping between the China project to the cooperation of the different working project, working proposal of the different in the European side, but it's not easier to say we are doing the same things. Sometimes we are doing we need to some of the result of our research work can feedback to the cooperation collection of the European side project, but it's not to say the European side they will also doing the research. Yeah, that's all. Next page. Okay, that's all from my side. As a brief introduction about the CF mechanism, and to say there is still some difficulties. It's not the same of the meaning. It's not the meaning that you get the funding from the European side. It's the same as what you will need to do in the most project. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuming, for this informative presentation. It's always good to hear real case examples of people that have tried this and have participated in this in the co-fund mechanism, and share their experience with us. I just wanted to remind the participants to submit any remaining questions now. But I think we can also move to the Q&A session. I have a few questions already that I addressed to the speakers. So I will just move as we started. First of all, for Andre, there are a couple of questions. They are a bit more specific, and you can maybe answer these later on in writing. But it's also a general one. There is a general question in there on what ENRICH in China can do for stakeholders that are looking for research partners, first of all, and secondly, looking for business partners in China. So what can ENRICH in China offer for these people that are looking first for research partners and secondly for business partners?
Okay, thank you, Dimitris, for the question. ENRICH in China can help either research actors or business actors from Europe to find the right and the most reliable partners in China. By finding the right partner, I mean that ENRICH in China is capable of doing research in the field in China to identify the key players in a specific sector, in a specific research field. We get in contact with them and we can make them gather together with European counterparts. By finding the most reliable partner, it means that not only we can identify the key partners and put them in contact with each other, but we can also verify whether the Chinese counterpart is exactly the most relevant partner to do the matching with the European partner, and also if the Chinese partner is the most trustful organization to gather with the European organization, considering the interests and priorities of the European organization towards the Chinese market. ENRICH in China, as mentioned, has a lot of experience and presence in the European side, but also in the Chinese side. So all the information and matching with potential partners that we do, not only we are capable of doing it, but we are also capable of doing it in a consistent and reliable manner. Of course, any specific demands or need that is requested from our side, we will discuss it bilaterally with the participant which requested that support. But in any case, just to emphasize, we are fully capable of doing this, finding the right partners and reliable partners in the research field and in the business field in China.
Thank you very much, Andre, for the answer. Then I have a couple of questions for Odette. Odette, can you hear us? Is the connection good?
I can hear you fine.
Great. So there are a few questions for you as well. First of all, the first one has to do with success rates of these applications in the co-funding mechanism. What are the success rates? Second question has to do with whether the co-funding mechanism can support Marie Curie actions, Marie Curie projects, and what costs does it cover in this case? Does it cover the Chinese researchers', let's say, costs to travel to Europe? And then the third question for you, Odette, has to do with whether the timeline that you presented for this year's co-funding mechanism applications, whether this will apply for the future, let's say, for next year's applications as well. Thank you.
Okay, so to start with the success rates, I don't have the data to hand, but I think they're quite high because there's a very tough screening process at the beginning. So I think most Chinese consortia, they contact most and they contact CSTEC and they're told fairly early on whether or not their call is strong enough. I don't have the data to hand, but I can check that for you later on, but I think it's quite high. Well, my impression is that it's quite high. I don't know anybody who's been turned down from who's been rejected from a CFM who's actually made the application. Second up with the Marie Curie action, I don't think CFM, the most co-funding mechanism is used for this purpose. I think there are other mechanisms available. Again, I can check that for you, but I don't think it comes through most because this is set up for the societal calls section of Horizon 2020. Sorry, societal challenges rather. And finally, the timeline. They changed the application process this year. So what we can say at the moment is that the calls are likely to be announced, or the call will open at roughly the same time next year, but the exact dates we don't know yet. We don't know if they're going to change the application procedure. So they've improved the application procedure each year, but they could change it again for next year. We just don't know.
Many thanks, Odette. And then we have a final question for Yuming. And the question is, what happens if a project is approved through Horizon 2020, but then rejected by the co-funding mechanism? I think that Odette already have answered this, but yeah, please.
But it's not my meaning. We have got funded by the Horizon 2020, also get funded by the most. Yeah, but I need to say these two. What we are planning for the supporting from the most is not exactly the same the same information, the same the same working items and the what we need to do in the Horizon 2020 because it's two different mechanisms. In the Horizon 2020, it's not a research and development project, but in China side, it's supported for the research and development. Yeah, it's different. It's the meaning that we need to do two projects for the Chinese partners.
Okay, thank you, Yuming. I think that's quite important to know that it's a different thing, the Horizon 2020 application and what is submitted there, and then there's a different, completely different process and a completely different application and mentality that is being used in order for the Chinese partners to apply for the co-fund. Is that what I understood correctly?
Yeah, it's not exactly what's totally different. It's not my meaning. I need to explain more detail there. It's the meaning that what we applied for the Horizon 2020 is mainly about the soft research work. We only need to publish some document, some white papers, some demonstration. We get the information from two different sides. That's the European side, some of the project. But for China, most supported project, you need to set up a test bed. You need to do to publish papers like that. So what we have done in the European side is not the whole work for the Chinese most project. We need to do more work than this.
Okay, that is clear then. Yes, that is clear. Thank you very much for this information. Mm-hmm. If there are I think there are no more questions, so I think that we can wrap it up. That we can wrap up this webinar. On behalf of just a quick comment that since there has been a bit of a problem with the sound quality in a few instances, this session has been recorded, so you will get a link, the follow-up email, where you can actually download the audio file, and then you can actually go through the webinar again if you've missed something because of bad quality. Please excuse this from our side, but sometimes it's quite difficult to connect with partners in China. I think there is one more question, and it's a gentleman would like to know how we can look for Chinese partners. Again, this I think has been answered. You can contact us, Claudio, ENRICH in China. You can find the contact details in the presentations, and send us more details on what you're exactly looking for, what type of partners, which field, what about, and then we can provide some more information and some guidance on that. I think that's the easiest way to go around this right now. That's all, I think. On behalf of ENRICH in China, I would like to thank you very much for participating in this webinar, and I hope you have found it interesting for your future endeavors and work related to China. Please help us improve our services. I mean, there are also some things that we can improve. So you will receive an evaluation form with a follow-up email, and so we would appreciate it greatly if you could complete it, fill it in, and send it back to us. And of course, you can also keep track of our activities through our website and through our social media accounts in different, we have different channels that you can use, as you can see in the presentations that you can download as well. So to those of you based in Europe, I wish you a very good day. And to those of you in China, I wish a very good evening. Bye for now, and hopefully we will see each other or hear each other very soon. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.